Hi guys, welcome to your last lecture for the year. We are doing section 2 in chapter 17. It's all about climate regions or climate zones, and like I said, it's your last lecture for this school year, and then you guys get to take life science with me next year, 7th grade science, which quite frankly is a whole lot more interesting than earth science, but shh, I didn't tell you that. Okay, so these climate regions or climate zones have a lot of information in them. So I'm gonna give you the list real quick here. There's 6 different ones. We've got polar, we've got temperate continental, we've got dry, we've got tropical rainy, temperate marine, and highlands. Okay, and you can see on the map here, they've got slightly different names on this map. Temperate is the temperate continental, arid is dry, tropical is the tropical rainy. Mediterranean is actually a more specific sub-region of the temperate marine region that we'll talk about. And then the mountains are also known as the highlands, okay? If you turn to page 550 and 551 in your book, there's another good world map that shows all these regions, okay? So now let's break these down, different order than that list, but let's break them down. So we've got tropical rainy, okay? Within the tropical rainy region, we have 2 sub-regions known as tropical wet and tropical wet and dry, okay? And you can see from the pictures that they're quite different. So what we've got is the tropical wet up here, and that's basically the rainforest, okay? They get at least 6 centimeters of rain per month all year long. There is no dry season, okay? The only rainforest we have in the United States is actually on the windward side of the island of Kauai, okay? We have some wet areas in the United States, but that's the only technical rainforest. The other tropical rainy subregion is known as the tropical wet and dry. And believe it or not, the savannas of Africa are considered that. And what it is that it's a very distinct wet and dry season. And the wet season gets a lot of rain, but the dry season gets like no rain, okay? And it's usually always pretty hot there. Even the rainy season doesn't get very cold, okay? The dry region, that's pretty obvious that it's going to contain the deserts. These are flip-flopped, okay? So here's the arid region. The deserts get less than 25 centimeters of precipitation per year. Now here's something interesting. They can be hot or cold. There are times that Antarctica is considered a desert because it's not getting very much precipitation in a year. Arid just means dry. Desert just means dry, not necessarily hot. But obviously, I'm with you guys. I picture something like that with like cactuses sticking out of the ground. The other subregion of the dry zone is known as semi-arid. So it's just kind of dry. Doesn't get a ton of rain, but it does get a little bit more than a desert. And that would be up here. That's the Great Plains, like prairies and grasslands are known as that semi-arid region, okay? Now let's break down the temperate marine area, which is what we live in, okay? You've got Mediterranean, you've got humid subtropical, and then you've got the marine west coast. Now you'd think that marine west coast would be us, but that's actually talking about the up north more. The Pacific Northwest, like Washington, Oregon area would be part of that marine west coast, okay? They get very mild winters, very cool summers, and quite a bit of precipitation year round, very wet, okay? The Mediterranean is what we actually live in, and that's an example of a picture right there. Actually, no. Hold that thought on that one. Okay, this is Mediterranean, that's us. It's basically coastal regions. Warm, dry summers and rainy winters. The type of vegetation we get are a lot of like scrub oak and shrubbery. It's known as chaparral, okay? Parts of Italy, Greece, they have a similar climate as we do, known as Mediterranean. Now, that leaves us with the humid subtropical. This is basically the East Coast, okay? This picture down here is probably Florida, but even along like the Carolinas and parts of like the lower part of Texas are this humid subtropical region. Very hot and humid in the summer, and then quite cold during the winters, but a lot of humidity there, okay? Then we've got the temperate continental. Remember, this is a little more inland. This is away from the marine areas, and that breaks down into humid continental and the subarctic. Okay, you can probably figure out which is which. This humid continental, they have very hot, humid summers, but then very, very harsh winters. Very distinct seasons, okay? The Northeast, like New England area, is part of that. They've got tons and tons of what's known as coniferous forests, like evergreen forests. But it's also part of the Midwest, like the Minnesota, Wisconsin, Chicago, Illinois area, was formerly very tall grasslands, but that's a lot of it's been cleared away for farmland now, but they still get very hot and humid summers and very harsh winters, okay? The subarctic is even farther north. So if you look at the map and you find the humid continental areas, the subarctic areas are right above those. They're more north. They get very short summers, and even the summers are cool weather, and very long, harsh winters, lots of freezing temperatures, okay? Areas of Alaska and northern Canada are part of the subarctic. Then we get into what you'd expect for the subarctic. This is the polar regions. We get two inside of the polar region. We've got the tundra, and we've got the actual ice caps themselves. The tundra would be that picture, and yes, that is me. I am standing next to the Alaskan pipeline, which runs along the majority of the state. And it's actually built above ground because in the tundra area, so this is in the southern part of Alaska. It doesn't have permafrost. The tundra is farther north a little bit, Fairbanks and above. It's so cold that the soil never thaws. It's always frozen. It's known as permafrost. It's like permanently frozen. So that pipeline had to be built above ground because they can't dig it into the ground. Okay, and then the ice caps. That's the poles. That's the really cold stuff. That's Antarctica, that'd be the South Pole, and then the upper part of Greenland. And the average temperatures there are below freezing. So Fahrenheit, that would be below 32 degrees all the time. Okay, very, very cold. You can see some penguins down there. And then that leaves us our last one, which is the highlands, also known as the mountains. And this one's a little unique because you can have highlands in all of these other regions, okay? Basically, if you go up in elevation, you're going to have a different type of climate, okay? There aren't any subregions for the highlands. It is on its own, but it's totally dependent upon altitude versus latitude. So it can be anywhere on the planet. It's just if you go up a certain elevation. And it says going up only 1,000 meters is the same as going north 1,200 kilometers, okay? So that's a big difference there. If you look at the latitude, the farther north you get, and the farther south you get below the equator, farther away from the equator you get, the more moderate the temperature is. The closer to the poles you get, the colder it becomes. But you have to go 1,200 kilometers to find the same difference in climate as just going up 1,000 meters in altitude gives you, okay? The higher elevation is very similar to the subarctic. It's very cold. There's a lot of those coniferous forests. You got those evergreens there. Same types of animals can be found in both regions, you know, bears and hawks and things like that. And then if you go above the tree line, so if you look here, you can kind of see this distinct line that goes across there. Trees grow down there, but not above. That's known as the tree line. And that's because once you go above that tree line, it's very similar to the tundra, and the soil is just not conducive to growing trees. Trees cannot grow above a certain elevation. So you've got kind of these subregions happening as you go up in elevation, as opposed to all over the planet, and that's what's unique about the highlands. Okay, I think that's all. All right, see you guys next year. 7th grade science. Woo! Bye.